got Barry next. You can go to the bathroom. Go to the bathroom if you need to.
You have to go to the bathroom?
Go to the bathroom if you need to. Stop this recording. Unless
Okay.
it comes in.
All right, that's fine.
All right.
Here we go.
All right.
So, the world is an interesting place.
Indeed.
The sun is shining today.
Olé.
Olé, yeah, the sun is bringing us warmth and light and making all of this possible.
Yes. Indeed.
The sun has been shining for how long? Long time. About 4.5 billion years.
Really?
That's right.
Yeah.
Whoa. We have a ways to go?
We have another 5 billion years.
Whoa.
Isn't that a remarkable thing that the sun can shine for billions of years?
Yes, it is.
Yes,
Amazing.
indeed. Now,
Will the human species make it to see it?
Oh, yeah. There's something to see in life.
I'm sorry.
Will the human species make it to see it?
Of course.
Well, that's a good question. That's a good question because scientists today say that in a billion years, the sun will be 10% hotter than it is today, which will make life very difficult on the Earth. Of course, we don't know what adaptations we can make in a billion years. Perhaps it won't be that big of a deal, but it's hard to say. As for the other life on the Earth, they're going to have to adapt too. But they're able to adapt slowly over time, and this thing will be taking place slowly over time. Not as if it would happen overnight. And so, who knows? Maybe the world's life could adapt to much warmer temperatures. Certainly, the world would be very different. We're entering a new world right now, in a sense, in that the temperatures are rising because we've put a lot of carbon dioxide in the air when we burn our gasoline and so on, coal, and so that's raising the temperature, and it's doing some interesting things around the world. I was reading this week, the ice is melting faster than we thought in Antarctica and also in the Arctic. So those are the two big remaining ice sheets in the world. There's a lot of water trapped in those ice sheets. Maybe, I don't know, 100 or more feet of water that would be added to the world's sea levels. So that would not be good if that all melted, but it's not going to happen overnight. And but it is contributing to the rising sea levels that we are seeing around the world. And today, if we have a big storm, it can be pretty bad. And part of that is, if you live on one of the coasts and you have a big storm, you might have a lot of more water because of the melting ice. And the melting ice is, every day a little bit more goes into the oceans of the world and raises the sea level. Any questions? Hello, Lily. Good morning.
Where's Lily?
Here's Lily. The world, though, has always had difficulties at times. We've had 5 extinctions. What's an extinction? It's when something in the world happens, some change takes place, like volcanoes erupting, and that can the volcanoes put out a lot of gas and as well as lava, and they can change the temperature of the world. The temperature of the world has fluctuated between very warm, like during the time of the dinosaurs. It was warmer than today. There was virtually no ice at the poles at certain times, and then we had periods of ice ages, right? And we're living in the last of our current the current ice age. We still have the remnants of the last ice age in the sheets that of ice that cover Antarctica and the part of the Arctic. Um, some of those sheets of ice are a couple of thousand feet thick, and that ice, 10,000 years ago, was, or maybe 20,000 years ago, that ice extended down into North America from the Arctic, and we had thousands of feet of ice, thousands of feet thick of ice coming down from the Arctic into North America. And that made a different world, you know. Um, any questions or comments? So we've had warm periods and dry periods and cold periods, and now we're heading towards, it looks like, another warm period. The temperatures are rising around the world, and we're noticing places that have been very cold, like in the Arctic, is warming up now. And last summer we had a temperature, I think, of nearly 100 degrees in the Arctic, and that's very, very unusual. And so, can we sustain a world where the ice is adding to the sea levels every day, and cities like New York and Miami and other cities on the coasts, Charleston, they're all going to be more vulnerable. You know, we had that Hurricane Sandy. When was that? A few years ago. I can't remember the exact year, but it put water. Hurricane Sandy put water in the Battery Tunnel in New York, and put water in Lower Manhattan, and that you know that was unprecedented. I lived in New York for 30 years, the first 30 years or so of my life, and I never heard of water going into the Battery Tunnel. The Battery Tunnel connects Manhattan with New Jersey, and no one ever heard of water going into that. And there was water down by Wall Street. You know, if you've ever been on Wall Street, where the stock exchanges, you know, no one ever heard of water going into Wall Street. So we're living in a new world. Katrina the hurricane caused a huge amount of damage in the South because of tidal surges, huge amounts of water from the ocean washing up into Houston and other cities there. So it's a pretty pretty new ball game we're living in now, and it's really a lot of the weather is changing in many different ways. You know, we have a drought now in California, right? We didn't get half the rain we normally get this year, and that's going to make it difficult for farmers and for everybody. In a few weeks, they'll probably come out with some drought restrictions. You know, like you can't wash your car and stuff like that. You can't water your lawns. But the world is always changing, right? And here we are, after 4.5 billion years, we're still sitting here, right?
Way.
Olay. Of course, we weren't here 4.5 billion years ago, right? The only life on the Earth came about 4 billion years ago. Took about a 500 million years for the Earth to settle down so that life could form, and that life was simple bacteria, right? That's all there was on the Earth 4 billion years ago, bacteria, which means you wouldn't even be able to see the life on the Earth. Or maybe you might see a colored patch on a rock or something. But no trees, no plants, no mice, no chickens, no nothing like that. Just bacteria.
No chicken?
Pardon me?
No chickens?
No chickens. No chickens. We'd have to wait a long time for chickens. Chickens, where did chickens arrive from?
Tell us where they arrived from.
Florida.
Florida. That's a good guess. That's a good guess because you have to have a warm place for the earliest chickens to live, and but it turns out the earliest chickens we think came from China or possibly India, and they were birds that were in the jungle.
They was?
Yeah, birds like chickens that were in the jungle, and I think they called them jungle fowl. And eventually, human beings took those chickens. So I shouldn't say chickens. They took those jungle birds and bred them. What does that mean? Bred them. They took the birds and the birds had babies, and the best babies they the humans paired with the best babies from maybe the next village, and slowly they built up a meaty bird that we call the chicken. The first jungle fowl didn't probably have too much meat on it, and was um, a different bird in many ways. But today's bird has qualities that humans like, the ability to lay a lot of eggs, for example, and a lot of meat on the bone. So life has this ability to rearrange itself and change over time, so that we went from bacteria to the world of today, and that's pretty remarkable, isn't it? I mean, how could you how could you go from bacteria? And by the way, the bacteria are still with us, and happily so, because they perform a lot of very necessary functions that enable us to thrive here on the earth, such as they help us with our digestion, they help us form vitamins, we think, and the bacteria interact with the world in very important ways. I'm not going to go into a lot of it now because I would have to look at my notes, but the bacteria are very essential to the living forms on the earth today. Without them, the whole thing would collapse. They make nitrogen, for example. that's usable for plants, and without that, we'd be in big trouble. So, but the world went from bacteria to other forms of life. And that's really, really remarkable. And it points out one of the most amazing things about life is it has an ability to change. And so you get elephants and you get whales and you get insects and birds and trees of all kinds and flowering plants, fish, and all of this is from the ability of living things to change over time, to become something new. How remarkable is that? We are human beings are new in the world, relatively speaking. We think the human being of today is only about 300,000 years old. That means that something like a fish might be 400 million years old. You know, I don't mean I mean the fish originated 400 million years ago. And insects about the same time, and birds about 65 million years ago or so, and the flowering plants 135 million years ago. So human beings at 300,000 years is a very short time. Our distant ancestors only came about maybe 9 million years ago. We're not even sure. And so we and the great apes and the chimpanzees and are new on the earth. Any questions? So and our species is changing as well, and we don't know where we're going in a million years or 100,000 years. We don't know what life among the humans will be like, whether we'll even be here. Many species have come and gone. Let me show you something, if you can hold on for a moment. Ta-da. This here. Here are two. What's this? Oh. Excuse me, guys. This. Oh. Hello, are you still there?
You're here.
You betcha.
Okay, somehow I've lost the picture. I'm sorry. Um,
We see you.
you can see me?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, really? Okay. Um, let me see. Oh. Um, all right. Well, you can see me, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, can you see this? This is a a fossil of a creature that lived in the oceans hundreds of millions of years ago. Um, it's like I forget the name of it. A kind of snail-like creature that lives in the oceans today. But this particular one died out a long time ago. Here's another one. This is a trilobite. Can you see this?
Yes.
This is a trilobite, a little creature that lived in the oceans, and they were once very, very prevalent and disappeared entirely. And we don't know exactly how that happened, but life has come and gone on the earth many times in the past, and we I'm just trying to get the picture back here. Um, I'll be with you in a second here. Sorry about this. Okay, I'm sorry. We're back on in business now. Um, anyway, so this little creature, which um, dominated the oceans hundreds of millions of years ago, disappeared entirely. Many times life has come and gone on the earth, and new life has sprung up in its place. Like the dinosaurs gave rise to the birds, and they also helped when the dinosaurs disappeared. Um, we we were able to the mammals were able to thrive. Um, and we came out of the mammals, so who knows if the dinosaurs didn't disappear, maybe we wouldn't be here. Life is always changing on the earth, and perhaps it changes on other planets as well. And we don't know what forms life might take on other planets. But what do you think of the possibility of intelligent life on other planets?
Sounds good.
You think, yeah, you think that's a good possibility.
I believe it's a possibility.
Why not?
Why not? Why not? The world or the universe is
Change,
so
you know,
hmm?
the world is changing, so
The
that is
world. That's right. The world is changing all the time, and the universe is also changing all the time. There are new stars coming into being, for example. If you look into the night sky, you can find places with it. You can see with a telescope where new stars are being born, and so they're being born out of the basic gas of the universe. Um, and planets are also coming into being, and who knows if the theory and the laws of physics should spring into existence on other worlds. Um, so it is possible that the universe is full of life, and that we're just waiting until we meet other creatures or other beings on other worlds. And won't that be exciting?
yes.
Mm-hmm.
I
Can
be
you
excited.
imagine?
Oh yes.
Can you imagine a day when will come when we will actually talk to other beings from other worlds?
So well, I'm excited. I kind of hope I will be around to see what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, next month, in a few days, the government is going to issue a report on UFOs.
Government always doing something. Oh yeah.
Really?
What? Hmm?
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, the the government was asked to make a report to the Congress and to the American people on the subject of UFOs. What are UFOs? Unidentified flying objects. And we've seen these things and have not been able to explain them we've seen these things for many years, and this report might give us some more information on what they are. Already people are saying that they're not birds, they're not weather balloons, they're not the planet Venus, they're not ordinary weather conditions that are strange, um, and um, and we don't know what they are. And they seem to be machines that are able to outfly our best military jets, and this has been going on for decades. Isn't that amazing?
See?
This has been going on since World War II and maybe earlier.
When you go
Uh,
born,
hmm?
and I was just saying I wasn't born then.
You weren't born then. Oh, you were a youngster.
Huh?
You're just a youngster.
Yeah, I am a youngster.
I didn't know that.
One of who the what you talking about?
Yeah.
Uh-uh.
I was born in 1943. Is anybody
Well,
born
I was
before
born
that?
in 1948.
I was born 1939.
1939. Okay.
I'm still here too.
Okay.
You know,
All right. You beat me.
I'm glad to be here.
Me too. I'm a retired school secretary.
Okay. Terrific. You were born 1939. Wow. And well, so you remember World War II, maybe, or your parents told you about it. Um,
But my parents told me about different things that you're saying about World War II and this and that
uh-huh.
and the other. It's just amazing.
Oh yeah.
Yes, yes, indeed, indeed. You know, I think everyone in this class has a more familiarity with the history of the United States from the last century, and a lot of people today who are born today don't really have much of a sense of the history. I think of the last century, of what happened in Europe and Asia, and and how the whole world was thrown into chaos in the 1940s, um, and also remember the depression we had before the war. That was really something, and people today have no contact with direct contact with that time, I think. So we understand things in a different way. You know, us folks who are a little bit older than today's folks. Um, but getting back to the topic of contact with other beings in the universe, I think that's going to be a very exciting thing, as you said. And we're all looking forward. Many people are looking forward to that, and I think that's going to be a game changer, as they say. That when we do make
I said, that's going to be incredible. You know,
absolutely, absolutely,
it's
and
going
I think
to
it's
change and more changes and more changes.
yes,
I
yes.
believe.
Well, they-
I mean, can you imagine what a uh, a group of intelligent beings might say to us about what they have discovered about the universe? It's there may be things they would tell us that we haven't even dreamed about.
That's exactly what I dreamed gonna happen.
hmm and so this is a big moment in human history. I think
It is.
we are just, I think, on the verge of making contact, and maybe we have already made contact.
That's
There
true.
there there are some people who believe. Yes, what did you say?
And maybe we have already made contact.
Yes, I think that's possible. I
That's
think, and this is just my opinion, but I think the government is hiding the fact that
yeah,
they have already made contact.
government had a lot.
Ah,
That's right.
You know,
I'm a retired school secretary.
I was gonna say the government had a lot of stuff.
the government has a lot of stuff, right, that they don't tell us.
Oh,
They
yeah.
don't, they don't
Supposed to be
tell us all
secret.
the.
Supposed to be a secret. That's what it's supposed to be.
So it is possible. I have several books here that talk about that, that talk about how the government may have covered up
Yeah.
what they know about other beings from other worlds because they're afraid that people will panic
That's
in
right.
America.
maybe we are those people.
Maybe we are, people have said that. People have said that
Those people.
we are somehow connected with other beings in the universe. And we may be the product of a manipulation of life by other beings in the universe that produce human beings.
Boy,
That's true.
Olay.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if that's true or not, but it is certainly
So
a possibility.
I was
it's a
told it was.
possibility.
but it's just a
I was
possibility.
It's a
told.
possibility.
Yeah, I was told it was true.
You were told that?
Right. Working for we before I retired from work.
Uh-huh.
Before I retired from work. So,
Anyway, here we are on this wonderful morning, and the the um, the universe is so full of possibility. The universe is so vast that and we're just so and we're new at exploring the universe. 100 years ago we invented the first airplane, and now we have little machines going around Mars, digging in the earth and sampling the air and telling us all about Mars. And it's only about 100 years, right, since the first airplane. you know, and the first automobile is, and now we're getting electric cars, and
That's right.
you know, and all sorts of things, and the and the promise, or the promise of what we can understand about the universe is enormous now. You know, we lived for thousands of years without really understanding too much about how things worked in the world, and what the world was made of, and how many stars there are in the sky. We thought just 500 years ago that there were maybe a couple of thousand stars in the sky, and that was it.
And I'm sure it's more stars in the sky now.
Billions.
Billions and billions, right? Billions, trillions, uncountable numbers.
Olay.
Olay, in our own Milky Way, what's the Milky Way? Our own galaxy, which is a huge collection of stars. There are at least 100 billion stars in the Milky Way. 100 billion, maybe 200 or 300 billion. We don't know.
How many galaxies?
It might be
And
more
how
than
many
that.
galaxies?
How many galaxies?
How many galaxies? Well, we used to think there were 100 billion galaxies. Now we think there are 2 trillion galaxies.
Holy cow.
And so there are so many stars. People say there are more stars in the universe than grains of sand on the beaches of the world.
Wow.
Yeah, wow. So
That's incredible.
that is incredible.
It's
That is,
unbelievable.
hmm?
It's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. It is unbelievable. And you know, I'm reading this book here called Fundamentals and of Physics. And one of the things that, let me see, just, oh yeah, here it is, the book, Fundamentals of Physics, Fundamentals. And this is written by a scientist who got the Nobel Prize, and he talks about how the world works in this book. It's very, very interesting. His name is Frank Wilczek, and I had the pleasure of meeting him once at Berkeley, and where he gave a talk, and he's really a very interesting fellow. And in this book I was reading last night, for example, he talked about why there is matter in the world. And in science they call it mass. I'm sure you've heard the term mass, M-A-S-S, and that relates to all matter. And it's very strange that what we've discovered about the universe is that there isn't much there. That mostly matter is made of empty space, and there are little what we call particles spinning about in what we term atoms. And those little particles, because, now this is very interesting, because they're moving so quickly, something like 1% of the speed of light, which is a lot. What is that? 1,800 miles per second, I think. They're moving very, very fast. And the reason these little particles are making the matter in the world is because of their movement. When something moves fast, it gains in mass. If you were to move at the speed of light, you would be enormously heavy. The faster we go, the more we weigh. And that's true not only of big objects like us, but tiny objects like protons and neutrons, and the things inside protons and neutrons. because everything is in this enormous motion, things have weight and things have solidity. And if this motion were to stop, the world would disappear. That's pretty amazing, right? What keeps the atoms, the particles in motion? You know, why don't they just run out of gas after a while, so to speak? You know, how do they keep moving all for millions and billions of years? I mean, we have, like, here's a glass of water, right? And the hydrogen atoms in this water were formed at the beginning of the universe, 14 billion years ago. I'm not sure you can say they're the same, but something has kept those hydrogen atoms intact. Something has allowed those hydrogen atoms to survive 14 billion years, and they'll go on and on like that virtually forever. Why is that? What gives them this energy, this continuous energy that is required to create the universe? Nobody knows the answer to that question. Somewhere there's a lot of energy. We think the universe is basically energy. You know, Einstein made that famous equation, E equals mc squared. Energy, E, is equal to m, mass, times the speed of light. So what we have there is mass and energy are equivalent. So when we look at ourselves, or when we look at the world around us, what we're seeing is energy that has somehow being transformed into matter. I find that totally mind-boggling. Why should that be? How is it that energy can become matter? I mean, that's like, what? How is that possible? And yet it is what's happening, and we understand that now. What will we be understanding in 100 years? What will we uncover about the universe even in the near future that will change the way we understand things? You know, we're constantly going through changes in our understanding of the universe. And these are turning around how we always thought of the universe. You know, 500 years ago, people thought that the earth did not move, that the sun went around the earth and all the planets and all the stars, and we were at the center of the universe, and we were just sitting there with the whole universe moving around us, right? I mean, you get up in the morning, you see the sunrise, and for millions of years, animals and humans saw that and said, well, the sun rises, the sun goes around the earth. It's obvious, right? No one felt the earth was moving. No one could explain why the stars also rotated around the earth and the planets. But there was a little problem. At certain times of the year, the planets seemed to go backwards. all of a sudden they went in a different direction, and nobody could really explain that easily. But it took someone like Copernicus, who came along in the 1500s, and he said, the easiest way we can figure this out is that if the Earth were like all the other planets and it moved, and it was moving around the sun, which gave us the idea that we were passing certain planets at different times of the year, like in a race. When you pass somebody who's slower than you, they seem to go backwards. And that's what was happening in the sky. We were passing planets like Jupiter and Mars that are further out. And when you understood that, you understood that the Earth was not at the center of the universe or even the center of our solar system, and that the sun was at the center of the solar system, and that all the planets, including the Earth, went around the sun. And that was a big revolution in thinking. And it changed a lot of the way people understood the world and even their own lives. Which now were not so special in terms of place. However, that's another story, and I'm not going to go into that now. But anyway, so we are constantly updating our understanding of the universe and who we are and how things work. And it's really a remarkable thing that we can understand that. Einstein said one of the most amazing things about the universe is that it's understandable. And that we, as part of the universe, have the ability to figure this out. You know, human beings are unique, we believe, in our ability to comprehend things, comprehend the cosmos, for example, know what something is made of, know that the water in this glass, for example, is hydrogen and oxygen, and those are atoms. And we know that the world is made of atoms, and that's perhaps the greatest discovery of all time. If you know that, you can understand how the world is put together and how it works, right? You can understand processes of all sorts, the processes of life, for example. In every moment, our bodies are recreating us by manipulating atoms and molecules. By taking the energy we get from our food, for example, which came from the sun, and using that energy to recreate energy in the body. And it's a very complicated process, and it goes down to the atoms and parts of atoms. And isn't that remarkable that the body can do something like that?
Wonderful, wonderful.
You know, I mean, you have a piece of toast, and that toast is broken down by the body, and it's broken down again and again, and changed and manipulated. The substances in the toast are rearranged so that you can draw energy out of that toast, which came from the sun. That's really, really something.
It's amazing.
Wonderful.
It is amazing. It is amazing. The world is very amazing. Every moment is amazing. Every breath we take is amazing. Every thought is amazing that we can think. How about that? We don't really understand how that works. We know something about it, but we don't really understand how thoughts are created, or how this picture we have of everything in the room is made. I mean, the brain is completely dark, right? I mean, this light doesn't get into the brain. Light gets into the eye, and then something happens. It's changed into an invisible flow of electrons, a current like in the wall, like an electrical current in the wall. The brain now is filled with an electrical feedback from the eye, an electrical signal, I should say, from the eye, which is now it's converted into something that's not light, as we call light. And that electrical signal is made into a picture. We don't know how. The same is true of sound, which the sound is a vibration in the air, which is picked up by the ear and again turned into an electrical signal. So that there's no sound in the brain, there's just an electrical signal which is interpreted by the brain and made into a sound. It's kind of like your television, right? Because television is making an image which comes from an electrical signal that has gone through the air and is picked up by the television receiver and made into a picture, and the sound also, and it's all done with electrical um, um, information. Amazing, right? So, walking across the floor or picking up a spoon is amazing.
Yeah.
All the calculations that have to go on in the brain to make that possible is incredible. If you had to figure it out on paper, you'd be working day and night for weeks to try to put down all the different mathematical formulations that would result in the movement of your hand, for example. How do we even move our hands? How do we say, open, close? We don't actually have to say it, right? And yet the hand can do that, right? Let's do that. Let's open and close the hand, if you would, and this is an amazing thing. Movement is an amazing thing in the body. You do it, we do it automatically. We don't have to say hand open, hand close. We just think of it. Right? You don't have to say in your mind open. You just kind of will it to happen. How does that happen? We don't know. We don't know how a simple thing like that can happen. It's not so simple, really. It's a lot of complex stuff going on for that to happen. Imagine how complicated it is for us to talk. To get out a hello to somebody. How does that happen? So there are miracles and wonders everywhere, all the time. our being here depends on the way atoms and molecules work, and electrons and nerves, and how it all happened, how this all came together is incredible. So I've gotten to the end of my time here. Any questions? Let me check my time over here. Yeah, right time. All right, maybe we'll go a little bit longer since we're going pretty strong here. Let's read a poem. Let's see. Here's a poem called, this is by Mary Oliver. Doesn't every poet write a poem about unrequited love? The flowers I wanted to bring to you, wild and wet from the pale dunes, are still smelling of the summer night, and still holding a moment or two of the night's cricket's humble prayer. Would have been so handsome in your hands, so happy, I dare to say, in your hands, yet your smile would have been nowhere, and maybe you would have tossed them onto the ground, or maybe, for tenderness, you would have taken them into your house and given them water, and put them in a dark corner out of reach. In matters of love of this kind, there are things we long to do, but must not do. I would not want to see your smile diminished, and the flowers, anyway, are happy just where they are, on the pale dunes, above the cricket's humble nest, under the blue sky that loves us all. Thank you very much for your really good attention today and for being here. And what a pleasure it is to be able to speak with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Be well, everybody. Take care. Hopefully, we'll see each other again next time.
Ole.
Ole. Mazel tov. Take care.
Take
Be
care.
well.
You as well.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye. Bye bye, everybody.
Keep your smile now. It's true.
This- Ba-ba-ba-da-bum-bum.
That's good.
That was good.
It's really good. Yeah.
That was all right.
You enjoyed it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
What do you thought?
Bathroom.
Oh.
All kinds of stuff.
Oh, that was good.
That was good. I'm glad you liked it.